Warning for Georgia families tonight. The FBI and Atlanta police have joined forces to combat 764.
The violent extremist network targets local children online. Fox 5 Deidre Dukes live at Atlanta FBI headquarters in Chamblee with the night's new details. Deidre?
And we are told that this group is extremely dangerous. They are targeting children online, exploiting them, then driving them to harm themselves or others. It begins with building a child's trust online.
The group lures the children, in some cases as young as 9 years old, to private platforms and then groom them through intimidation and abuse,
turning everyday technology into a tool for coercion and harm.
The young victims then become predators themselves in some cases, and they gain status within the group through cruelty, abuse, and other criminal actions.
Atlanta police and the FBI are combining resources to combat a violent, nihilistic extremist network known as 764. Law enforcement officials say the group has unleashed an internet campaign of psychological warfare against Georgia's most vulnerable.
Members of the 764 network manipulate, coerce victims into producing or sharing extreme gore content and child sexual abuse material. They also convince victims to self-harm or act out in violence or commit animal cruelty.
The federal agency is investigating more than 50 cases across Georgia. APD has flagged several cases involving local bomb threats they believe were carried out by juveniles with ties to 764.
Bomb threats called into local businesses and schools in the city of Atlanta. Some key things about these cases are all suspects that were identified live in different states. Money was requested in exchange for not detonating bombs.
Police are urging parents, caregivers, and educators to look for potential warning signs of self-harm or suicide.
They've recently met a new friend online on an online network, and they seem infatuated or even possibly scared of, carving on their skin, openly talking about death.
Now, anyone with information on the open cases here in Atlanta, the state of Georgia, or anyone who has information on this network, urged to contact Crime Stoppers Atlanta or the FBI. In Chamblee, Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
Thank you so much for the update. We'll